Hello there, I'm Alexandra Mayers, and welcome to this Porn News Alert meets Monica at Home meets Alexandra Mayers Live. I am your hostess with the mostest. Wow, I've had an unusual day that brought me to creating this video blog a little bit later in the day than I'd anticipated to, but hey, at least I'm getting it done. Because I feel like this particular issue is pretty important for a lot of people who are interested in, the happenings within the porn industry, because it has to do with the issue of rape. Allegations of rape again. Just recently, there were all those James Dean allegations of rape against him, and one of the accusers, actually the one with the strongest case for that matter, a young girl by the name of Amber Rain, she turned up dead not too long ago after coming out with her allegations against, actually they weren't just allegations, there were witnesses, when she came out accusing James Dean of being unprofessional on set. So when I saw some recent allegations of rape against Pierre Woodman, which were made by a fairly new porn star who is known by the name Serenity Haze, I was terrified. I was like, oh, here we go again. And even though I'm no longer adding additional posts to pornnewstoday.com because I'm just sick of it, because I've been covering the adult industry news for so long, I kind of feel an obligation when it comes to, these high energy, tense kind of news items. And, I'm really glad I did pay attention to this, because I actually sat on this for a couple of days, because when I first saw the allegations, and then when I saw just a mean and unprofessional and derogatory write-up written by someone who really should remain nameless, but I want to let you all know who this asshole is. His name is Sean Tompkins. He's basically known as an industry parasite. He is constantly harassing people who are enemies of his friends, or his so-called friends. That loser doesn't actually have any friends. He owes child support to his children's mothers. I guess he thinks more of attending porn conventions than taking care of his children. That's pretty bad. But he wrote an extremely mean write-up in regards to these rape allegations that Serenity Haze is making. And he specifically said at the top that he wasn't there. So I'm not even sure why he's writing much of anything, but let me read a little bit of this to you.
Written by Sean Matthew Tompkins. Let's be clear. I have no clue what happened on set between Serenity and Pierre. What I do know is every single person I've asked about him says he always pays. In between fundraising scams, KKK meetings, and Aryan Brotherhood gangbangs, Serenity shoots really bad porn. From what I understand, Matrix, her third agency in as many months, booked her with Woodman. This is where it gets sketchy. She claims that Woodman wanted to cream pie her. I know what you're thinking. Why would Woodman want to risk getting her preggo? Horrible to think of Serenity as a parent. She'd have little Pierre lighting crosses and throwing white paint on MLK statues by his second grade year. Sorry. So anyway, let her tell it. He wanted to cream pie her. She said no, picked up her KKK sheet, and left. Once the scene came out, the cream pie incident had turned into rape.
So, did porn star Serenity Haze get raped on a Pierre Woodman porn set? That's the looming question. And unfortunately, it's not a clear-cut answer. It's actually a very complicated and complex answer. And that's what we'll be discussing tonight. So I hope all of you had a good day. Go ahead and crack open a beer, pour yourself a glass of wine, maybe open a soda, have some hot cocoa, something, because I am going to be talking for a while about really this entire situation and issue, how I noticed it, to how I sat on it for a few days, and my observation since watching the video and what I was told is its entirety.
What you want?
I absolutely think that Serenity Haze believes that she was raped on set. Absolutely, I think that she believes that, and no one has the right to tell her that she was not, considering that it's not a clear-cut answer. I feel that if at some point she feels the need to file charges, then people who agree with her perspective should definitely support her. Absolutely. But do I think that Pierre Woodman and really a vast majority of porn viewers who have seen a large variety of porn scenes, would they view that she was raped on set? Probably not. Probably not. And, that's where we get to the difference between the male and the female mind. Because emotionally, spiritually, and psychologically, in my opinion, from what I observed, yes, I believe that Serenity Haze was raped on that set. I saw some things that were so inappropriate. I saw some activity that just should not have happened. I heard some things said that I thought were atrocious. But do I feel that she was physically sexually assaulted from what I saw? No, but I'm not in Serenity Haze's mind. I don't have her perspective. And from her perspective, that day on that set, maybe from her perspective, she was screaming no. She did say it, but when you're in high anxiety situations, sometimes the volume that you speak at isn't quite as loud as you think it is. Do I think that from her perspective, she was forced to do certain things? Yeah, I do believe so. And from some things I saw a bit of coercion there. But rather than me going into too much detail right now, because I did make some notes here in regards to things I want to cover, I want to share with you some of the tweets that Serenity has made since this incident has occurred. Well, first, let me share with you the allegations. So take a look at these.
So, you refused to pay me, then still use the content. Looks like I'm about to contact a lawyer and sue the fuck out of you. This is why I don't recommend porn to anyone. Too many creeps, fakes, and scam artists. Yeah, he tried to force me to do a cream pie, which was not what was emailed to my agent, and then refused to pay me for the boy girl. And tried to force me to do anal after I told him to stop. He kept forcing me until I kicked him and left and had John come get me. Right? Laugh my ass off. The unedited version shows me screaming at him and telling him to stop, and I was ready to leave.
And for this young lady to say that publicly, considering how much she has verbalized and tweeted that she wants to be a successful porn star, that says quite a bit to me. And what it mainly says to me, and especially after watching the video footage, Serenity Haze, from my perspective, is not mature enough mentally, psychologically, spiritually, or physically at this phase in her life for the porn industry. And Serenity, if you see this, get mad at me all you want. I want you to get mad at me because I'd rather you get mad at me than project the anger elsewhere, really, because I can take it, but some other people in other situations might not be able to. You're not ready yet. You're not into the act of sex yet. And that's a biological thing. You can't control it. I wasn't really big into wanting to do much of anything until I was about 33, 34 years old. Um, you're just not ready, and I'm not even sure you have the personality type to really be in the porn industry, because it does take a certain personality for a female, and that's not necessarily a good thing or a bad thing. It just is what it is. But you were not happy on that set, Serenity. Broke my heart, actually, because I saw a young woman
What do you think?
who was seeking validation,
Let him come in your mouth?
approval,
You make a try?
No,
to find success in something.
because I said no.
You definitely are very strong, extremely so, but you're torturing yourself needlessly, and you're fighting with yourself. Stop. The reason that you want to hurry up and get the scene over with is because you're not ready for this lifestyle yet, because it is a lifestyle. They want to say, oh, porn is just a job. Now, it's a certain culture. It's a certain socioeconomic group that they are close to even having their own language, really. But I know you think you want it. I know that you probably have someone in your life who doesn't have your best interest in mind. You're just not ready. Back when I was first really starting to shoot scenes, when I was active as a porn star, I met a woman named Christy Canyon when I was invited onto the Playboy radio show. Really cool woman. I really liked her a lot. And she basically told me I wasn't cut out to be in porn. And you know what? She was right. She was right. I mean, I definitely was not so into sex when I went in. If I hadn't met the guy I was dating who was in the industry and who was very good sexually, who kind of familiarized me with porn star type sex, I probably wouldn't have even shot as many scenes as I did, because it was through my time in porn, the age I was at. I mean, I was 29, 30, and 31 years old, I think. I was just then awakening sexually. Even though I had been an exotic dancer for years, I just was not, I think I looked like a sexy person, but really when it came down to it, I wasn't. It's funny because when I look back at my porn scenes, I think to myself, well, gosh, no one ever is going to know what I'm like sexually now, because I'm totally different now than I was then. Nowadays, I love sex because I'm 37 years old. But when I was your age, no. And I know what I saw in your face, girly. I know. But let's see. Now, again, I think without a doubt that Pierre Woodman believes that he isn't a rapist. I would not classify him as an aggressive, physical, forceful rapist. No, I would not. But would I say that he's into forcibly mind-fucking girls? Yeah, absolutely. And I didn't like it. I didn't like it. Now, I'm sure that he doesn't create his porn for me to like at all. But that scene I saw, that was, it was so awkward and, just like cringeworthy and like full of negative energy. It was so bad that it was almost comical. Actually, at one point it was comical when the male talent, also known as his assistant, Ricky Mancini, I believe his name is. It was funny as hell when she jacked him off using her feet, and then she was laughing about it. And I think it kind of pissed Ricky Mancini off, because that's when things started going even more wrong. But and really none of this is funny. Well, some of it is, but I'm trying with this video to be as kind as possible and have as much tact as possible, but I'm also keeping this as real as humanly possible, because this entire situation, especially with the Tompkins, with the Sean Matthew Tompkins, the real porn WikiLeaks element, I can't believe he wrote such a negative, derogatory, insulting post about this girl. Okay, now hopefully I don't get sued for having, for inserting a few video clips of this or some screenshots, but I had to save some while I was watching it, because I just saw a few things that I thought were major red flags. I mean, if I had to grade this set and this scene and everything I saw that was behind the scenes and whatnot, I would have to give it a D-. I just would, because it was so bad. But there was a smidgen of professionalism that I did see, and really that tells me that the problem that I'm really witnessing here is that with Pierre, he's having a hard time adjusting to a multitude of things. I think he's having a hard time adjusting to getting older, not being as attractive to the young girls as he was once upon a time. And Pierre, you're not the only one. I'm getting older and fatter. Happens. But you got to move with that. You got to adapt. Maybe you don't need to be the talent anymore. I didn't see a condom used. Where was the condom? It said on the video that it was shot in Los Angeles. So you're supposed to pull a permit, and you're supposed to abide by the condom mandates. You know what they are. You said to me on Twitter that you've been working in the industry for 25 something years and that you were hired by Larry Flint. Well, that tells me that someone out there expects you to have some degree of professionalism and to keep up with the times. So, hey, keep up with the times. Get with it. Because, making these excuses, saying, well, what about this? What about that? All this deflecting, when I was just asking you some pretty simple questions on Twitter, such as, hey, you're not from the United States. What kind of visa are you coming over here working on? Hey, have you ever had any other allegations? I read in your Wikipedia that once upon a time you were a police officer, but now you're in porn. What exactly prompted that change? What happened? There's a lot of questions, really, that I could pose to Pierre Woodman, but we're not really going to go into that so much right now. I just think that he needs to become a lot more adaptable, and he does need to realize that there are certain legalities to shooting pornography within the United States of America, specifically within the Los Angeles area in California, and he needs to abide by that legislation, because it's not me that you have to worry about, it's other people who have quite the interest in ensuring that you are shut down permanently. Consider this your friendly reminder from your favorite black girl next door. Anyway, let's see here. So now I'm going to go through the different notes that I made while watching that video. And, I'll try to breeze through this, make some points here. Okay, now from the very beginning of the scene, I really felt very uncomfortable watching this. And see, that's the thing, Pierre Woodman. I mean, you're playing a certain role here as far as, oh, I'm being falsely accused of rape. But at the same time, you know damn well that these allegations are making you money. I mean, when I look at all the tweeting that I did to you today, and I have more Twitter followers than you do, all that tweeting drew a lot of interest to your website. So I'm sure some of the traffic that I sent over to your Twitter account probably converted to at least one or two member signups, new member signups, maybe even more, who knows. But I think you're trying to appeal to an audience that's into rape. And I hope to God that this whole thing isn't just some sort of, psychotic marketing ploy just for you to get attention. I thought it was ironic that you were saying I was tweeting you for attention. No, I don't want the attention from what it is you produce at all. So, I thought that was weird. But anyway, just from the 220 mark, I was very uncomfortable. I mean, she looked really nervous. She's swallowing all hard and everything. She looks scared. She's not really, her smile looks forced. And when she first came in and you saw that she was really, the first thing I would have done if I were the porn producer, which I'm not, I would have thought to myself, maybe she'll be more comfortable if, there's a female around. And I really think that every porn set should have a non-porn star, empathetic female there just to be like an overseer. So that, because a lot of times young girls, they're young women who are still basically girls because the human brain doesn't even fully develop until you're 25 years old. But young girls a lot of times are very intimidated by older males, whether they should be or not. If you have an older female on set who's empathetic and compassionate, that would make a world of difference. And I think if you're an ethical and professional pornographer, that's something that you should consider. Not a big deal. There's a lot of veteran performers out there who I'm sure would be more than happy to, maybe on a rotating schedule or something, they could show up on various porn sets and oversee what's going on. A lot of times the makeup artist kind of plays that role, but if you don't have one, then you need to have another female, I think, on set, because whether you want to look at it like this or not, the act of making pornography, specifically for a woman, can be extraordinarily invasive. Physically, it's actually invasive. But spiritually, it is too, and psychologically, it most definitely is. And that's something that I think needs to be taken into account. I think that just as workplace safety, as far as, physicality is important to safeguard, I think psychological and spiritual safety is important to safeguard as well. But I don't really know how that would be adequately safeguarded, but you never know, maybe in the future. But anyway, she looks scared. So let's see. When you first started doing the interview with her, Pierre, see, this is where the mind fuck that it appears that you get off on comes into play, and I think it's wrong. Now, maybe if someone had prepared this young woman by saying, hey, Pierre is going to try to tear you down a little bit in order to try to, get some emotion out of you in front of the camera and maybe throw you off your game a little bit, but just, just so someone should have prepared her. Also, someone, I think, definitely needs to educate this young woman in regards to porn sex being real life, because it is. It's not your personal life as far as, what happens between behind closed doors. It's just between you and whoever you're with. Of course, it's on camera, but it is real life, Serenity. It's real life. Because if you end up contracting HIV, be it on-set or off-set, and you test positive, you can't just leave that HIV on the porn set. It's going to go with you in your everyday real life until the day you die. Okay? So the interview, from my perspective, really should have told Pierre Woodman that things were going to go wrong. There were a lot of red flags from the very start. I mean, just from her body language, she was very closed. Um, she mentioned at one point that she was engaged, and Pierre says, "Whoa, you're engaged, but you're coming into porn," and he starts going on and on about how the guy should be taking care of her. And you could just see this girl's face start to kind of go from a smile to crumbling, and she's trying to hold it together because she's a strong little girl. But Pierre, he's twice her age. And I think that should be another thing in porn. That should be a rule. I think that you shouldn't be able to be in porn until you're over the age of 25 for biological maturity reasons. Human brain, like I said, does not fully mature until the age of 25. Also, I think that it should be a rule that no performer can work with someone who's over twice their age until they reach the age of 40. And then, hey, if they want to work with someone who's 81 or 82, more power to them. But it's sick. Okay? And, this is my opinion, but this is my webcast, and I'm entitled to my First Amendment right, to my freedom of speech, just as Serenity Haze, if she chooses to be a member of the KKK. There are rumors about her being a racist and a KKK member or something who, I guess she hates black people. You know what? That's her opinion. She's entitled to her opinion. If she wants to join a white pride group, hey, I have black pride. And I'm not going to give that up. When it comes to the reality of what porn videos are, and I do want to emphasize this to anyone watching who doesn't quite understand how the porn industry works. Porn scenes, porn videos, porn features, 95% plus of the time, the sole reason that young men and women shoot adult content for mass distribution is not just to get their name out there as a porn star, but to kind of showcase their sexual skills for when they go on the road, unfortunately, as an illegal prostitute. Quite a few porn stars, a very high percentage, unfortunately, do make themselves available for private shoots, which are often no more than prostitution gigs to the general public. And what Serenity, I don't think, quite realizes just yet is that because she's such a tiny sliver of a girl, such a doppelganger for Jenna Hayes, a real tiny little spinner type of girl, because of that, the majority of her fans will be older men who like barely legal young girls. And oftentimes older men who like girls who are of legal age, who are willing to play the part of a girl who's underage. In other words, men with pedophilic and ephebophilic tendencies. And that is something that we'll talk about a little later. That's something that I found incredibly creepy about this particular scene, but let me go ahead and continue. So anyway, Pierre Woodman, he goes, "Whoa, you're engaged, but you come to porn." So that immediately made this young girl doubt herself, and or young woman doubt herself, reevaluate her relationship, and she's going through this whole mental mind fuck that has been launched by Pierre Woodman while she's trying to hold it together and act accordingly in this sex scene with virtual strangers. Okay, so let me go ahead and let's see, what else did I want to touch on? Well, it did seem to me like Pierre wanted to make her feel really bad in the very beginning of the scene, made me feel very uncomfortable. I could barely watch it. Now, here's where I got confused, okay? Because there were two, it wasn't just one person that she wound up being with on this particular set. It was two men. It was Pierre Woodman, and then it was his assistant slash male talent, this guy Ricky Mancini. So I wasn't quite clear as to whether or not Serenity knew that from the very beginning of the scene, because there were a few elements that she didn't seem very clear on. And, you know, going back, another thing I wanted to add about that, you know, pre-getting busy interview that you did, Pierre, at the 4-minute mark, you had her relive, basically, and explain to you a negative sexual experience from her past, which had to do with her loss of her virginity. She obviously didn't want to talk about it. It was obviously not a great experience. Why were you pushing her? It was sick the way you were doing that. I didn't like it. You know, again, that's maybe your style. Maybe that's what your viewers live for and what they like, but I thought it was a bit much. And at the 4:37-minute mark, I mean, unless she's an Oscar-winning actress, it was very apparent that she's just not naturally into sex at this point in her life, and I felt like that was a major red flag. You should have stopped the scene there. Again, in the beginning, I didn't hear any talk at all about barrier protection. I didn't see anyone offer her a condom, nothing. Let's see. Now, what I thought was odd was that she stated in the beginning of the scene that her first blowjob that she'd ever done was in porn. Again, that would have been a red flag to me as a producer, because that would tell me, wow, this girl is really sexually inexperienced. Maybe she's not what I need in order to get the content that I'm looking for in order to make a profit. But no, you kept going, Pierre. So, you know, she even said that she doesn't give any blowjobs in her regular life. I thought that was interesting, and I thought that was another red flag. Let's see. A lot of her comments, like I stated earlier, made me feel at least that she wasn't, that no one had really told her about the risk that she was putting her health at by not using barrier protection. But I'm going to keep going. At around the 6-minute mark, she did specify that she had the plan of saving her anal scene for a different studio, not for you. I thought you were a little bit condescending with her when it came to talk about the money and everything. I also felt like that was something that should have been discussed prior to, you know, getting ready to shoot the scene and everything, or maybe after an initial meeting. Maybe you guys should have met first before shooting the scene, or maybe spoken with her agent a bit more. So anyway, she did specifically state that she has not tried anal sex before. She did say that she wanted to save her anal sex scene for another studio, and I felt like you were a little bit pushy with her on that, Pierre. Let's see. I felt like also from watching that scene, some of her wishes were ignored verbally. I also felt that the issue of informed consent needs to be something that you need to refamiliarize yourself with, Pierre, as does your assistant, because there were a few instances to where I heard her say, or mm-mm. That means no. I heard her verbally say no, but really all those no's and all those those were all red flags. Those all should have really told you, Pierre, time to bail out of the scene, time to cancel this scene. You know, maybe maybe just ask the girl for, for her to compensate your gas money, or, maybe you were at home. I don't know where you shot this thing, but, if you were out of pocket some money, maybe a makeup artist or something, fine. Maybe be like, well, you got to reimburse me for that. But really, that scene should have just been cut. It should have been from that point. It was so cringeworthy, God. Okay, now at the 8:30 minute mark, she specifically said, quote, "I don't like being forced to do stuff." And right there, she was setting the tone that, I mean, really, she kind of said that she wasn't comfortable with anything that I know of to be in your basic boy-girl scene. She didn't want to do a blowjob. She wasn't into, she didn't seem like she was very flexible or, open to various unusual positions. She just, being that she comes from being a cam girl, I think that she is more of a, soft core adult actress, more of a posy type actress, maybe more of a magazine layout kind of girl. But okay. At the 8:53 mark, she says, "I don't like abusive stuff." And that was right after you asked her if she likes to be slapped. And again, that was a red flag, because if you were to ask her, does she like this? Does she like that? That makes me think as the viewer, well, I guess you're into that. It makes me think as an ex-porn star, hey, this guy's going to see how far he can push this girl. And this girl was not someone willing to give you an inch. That was pretty obvious. Let's see. Well, she said that if someone spits on her, she'll knock the shit out of them. Again, that's another red flag. Well, something that I did want to say was that Pierre did ask Serenity if she'd ever been tied up. I guess he was referring to bondage. And whoever Serenity's agent is, I highly advise that you familiarize her a bit more with the various types of porn that she might have indicated that she believes she's okay with, but that in actuality she might not be actually okay with. Because considering the scene that I saw with Pierre, if you send that girl to a kink.com set, I think you would have a potential suicide on your hands. From what I saw, honestly, either that or a huge media disaster and probably a huge lawsuit also, which probably would end up settling out of court, because that's what court attorneys tend to do. Let's see. Okay, now another red flag. At the 10-minute, 36-second mark, she specifically stated that she'd not really masturbated until she turned 18. And she could have been acting. Maybe she was lying. I don't know. But that's what she said. And unless she's an Oscar-winning actress, and she might be. And if she is, I think a studio needs to put her under contract right now. But it didn't seem to me like she was acting. And again, I think that she might be a little bit of a late bloomer. And even though all you closet pedos out there are like, oh, well, she's so little, we gotta book her on everything. I'm telling you, this is your warning. Trust me, you're not going to get another chance. I mean, really, I think that Woodman needed to take a more assertive role and a more responsible and ethical role, and he needed to say, hey, I don't think you're quite ready for porn at this time. Why don't you give yourself some more time to develop, experience life, meet some hot guys, experiment in your non-camera life. And then if you feel like you're ready when you're like 27, 28 years old, Come back, you'll still be little and cute. Then we'll give you a whirl. That's what I would have thought, being that this man is like 52 years old, 53, but no. Okay. Then at the 10-minute, 48-second mark, she says that she guesses that she likes masturbating, which translates into the fact that she's really not having that many orgasms yet. Let's see. All right, now, even before the scene really started, I felt again that Pierre Woodman could stand to take some sensitivity training, because he sounded like a drill sergeant, honestly, to me. He's like, stand up, show me yourself, take off your dress, or whatever kind of accent he has. And I'm just not a fan of the French. Never have been. Ooh, oui, oui, parlez-vous français? So like I swear, I thought the cartoon Pepe Le Pew was going to come around from the back of the camera and into the scene. Of course, that didn't happen, but okay. So let's see. All right, now at the 14-minute, 50-second mark, she was totally tense. I mean, she was not turned on at all. There was like no natural lubrication occurring or anything. I mean, I really didn't even know how the scene was even going to initiate. Another thing that I thought was very inappropriate. Now, some people might disagree with me on this, but as someone who's a native English speaker, who didn't always know other languages, I find it very uncomfortable to be in situations where people are speaking a language that I don't understand. And I know that they're just having casual conversation, but especially if I'm in like a completely alien environment, such as a porn set, and everyone's speaking a completely different language, and I'm completely out of my element anyway, that would just add to my growing anxiety. And I physically saw that anxiety building on that girl. It was nuts. All right, now, so anyway, please, Pierre and Mancini, speak English around the girls when they speak English. Speak French around the girls when they speak French. Speak Spanish around the girls when they speak Spanish. I'm sure y'all speak all three. So, just something to think about so you don't come off as rude assholes. Let's see. Now, at the 21-18-second minute mark, it seemed like she was getting more comfortable, but that's where I got confused in the scene, because there was a younger guy who was there, and that turned out to be Ricky Mancini, but I thought that it was only the guy behind the camera, and then all of a sudden the other behind the scenes, and there's a young guy. I got confused. I was like, what's happening here? Did this girl know that they were going to be two? Are they going to tag team her? I don't really understand what's going on. But what kind of made me think, oh, maybe things are going to go okay in this scene, was when she started kind of getting into the younger guy. So I was like, oh, maybe it won't go so badly. But then when you came over, Pierre, after she was kind of getting into the younger guy, I could see that even though it was from the security camera from a distance, I could just see in her body language that reality was setting in, and she was like, ooh. I gotta fuck you, old man. And Pierre, I know you take it personally. And that's okay. You can be vain. You are an actor, after all. You make money on what you look like, whether you like it or not. But being that you are getting older, it might be time for you to create a new niche for yourself, unless you want to be deemed a really creepy, gross old guy Yes, some young girls will be able to tolerate you, but quite a few will not, and you will end up traumatizing quite a few if you don't shift into maybe some more seasoned women at this stage. I can understand, like, maybe if you do a young girl here and there, but if all you're going to shoot is young girls, it's really going to make you hate young girls and women in general as time goes on, because you're going to know and notice more and more that they think you're gross, and it's going to tear on your self-worth, because hey, men, you guys have feelings too, but I think it's going to make you, whether it be consciously or subconsciously, kind of mean-spirited towards some of the young girls that you know are having a hard time tolerating you. Because I did see some frustration toward the very end of the scene, and you really you shouldn't have even attempted the second scene with her, but we'll get into that later. But she didn't like you, and I think that chemistry-wise, it wasn't even just the age. I think it was the types of people you are, because you have been doing this forever, Pierre, so you just kind of want to, go through the different positions, I could tell. But this girl, not only is she strong-willed and resistant, but she had a mouth on her. She didn't have a filter. She was a little condescending, a little mean. I was actually surprised to witness the escalation of her attitude, but I think that a lot of it was her being defensive and her just trying to make it through the scene. And again, she did keep verbalizing, I just want to get this over with. I just want to get this over with. Because, she wanted the payday. And even though I hate to say it, she didn't really want to work for it, though. She doesn't seem to understand that being a porn performer is an actual physical, laborious, difficult, and dangerous job. It just is. And I'm really not speaking from too much experience, because I definitely was far from being a good performer, because I didn't really know what the hell I was doing. The only reason I even stayed out there as long as I did was because of the guy I was dating. I really believed at the time that that was somebody that I was in love with. Looking back, especially after seeing this damn video today and having a few flashbacks and feeling triggered left and right, thinking back, I kind of think that the guy I was with, and I hate to even say this to myself, so here's my vulnerable moment. I kind of wonder if someone just told him to be with me to get me up to speed and to get my stamina up sexually, Because even though he didn't work in front of the camera, he was a porn sex fucker. And, I mean, when I went into the industry, I think I probably was as inexperienced as what this young girl seemed to be. And if I hadn't been dating that guy, I don't know if I ever would have had any decent scenes. I had so many bad scenes from, I don't understand why some people have matched me up with some individuals. I had, and this is why, I'm sharing some of this now. I already gave a lot of you the answers that you needed when it came to the scene. So now I am going to kind of go off on some tangents here, because I haven't really done a video blog with just me in some time. But I guess I just want Serenity, if she ever sees this, or any porn girl who's having a hard time in the industry getting adjusted, or who maybe just should get out altogether, I want her to know that she's not the only one who's had bad scenes or had personality conflicts with people. I had a really shitty scene with Voyeur Media once. I was supposed to work with a guy named Mark Ashley. And he and I mean, when I first saw him, I just did not like him. There was something about him that I just found unattractive. He seemed kind of hoity-toity with an attitude. He probably didn't like me either. I was going through stuff with my agent at the time. I was just thinking to myself, ugh, I just want to get through this scene. And I remember I was sitting on a futon, probably about the height of this little bench I'm sitting on right now. And Mark and I had kind of started the scene, but I wasn't into him. I was all tense. He wasn't really into me. And so we stop. He sits across the room. And I really didn't mean to give him a dirty look. I really didn't. But I was trying to psych myself up. So I have my eyes closed, and then I open my eyes, and he's like just staring at me. And I was just like, and he was like, that's it. I'm not putting up with this shit. I mean, complete male diva moment. But it was for the best. He walked off set, but then he forgot his sunglasses. He had to come back, and he was looking for them, which, I mean, at that point I was crying. But Van Stiles, that's who directed that scene. Van Stiles, he's a very good director, extremely so. You know, cinematography-wise, yeah. But also, he's a sensitive male. When I think back, maybe he wasn't even that sensitive. He probably cheap and probably was thinking, oh shit, this bitch, gotta salvage this scene. But he talked me down, and they called a different male talent. They called in a guy by the name of Marco Banderas. I think that was his name. Latino guy, hot, much better match for me. So scene worked out. Scene worked out. I've never watched it because I do not watch my scenes. Don't want to. But I don't know. Maybe in my later years when I'm a rich, bored woman, I'll hire my own camera crew and shoot some sex scees that maybe only I will see just so I can see what I look like on camera. But, you know, probably not. But, you know, that was a bad scene. It turned out okay, but what I thought was good was that Van Stiles did not push Mark Ashley to stay. He didn't force a crying girl, me, to have sex with someone who I obviously was not vibing with. So I think that all porn directors and producers, if they're responsible, that's what they should do. You know, when I did my scene for Not the Cosbys, Triple X, I'm so pissed that that scene is not my best work as a performer, because I really did care about how I came across in that movie. That's why I'm pissed about them giving the character of Rudy a sex scene, being that they made her like a little girl. I have a major problem with that, and I don't think it should have even legally been allowed. You know, I just don't like that. But what, at the time, like, I can't stand Will Ryder / Jeff Mullen, whatever the fuck his name is, to this day. I think he's a despicable human being. I think he's very cold. I think he's very mean. And I think that he's very insensitive and very greedy and vain. But that greed is what I think is going to end up being his downfall, truthfully. But anyway, at the time, I thought he was an okay guy. At the time, I thought that he was a very dynamic director. But he didn't have a good sense of what I would be into via a male talent, or even a male talent that would really be into me. Because keep in mind, at that time, I still was a relatively new performer. And I think I held my own pretty well, but at the same time, I kind of needed training wheels. And I think a lot of young girls do. And that's why I think you need different, so somehow there needs to be like a category system with guys, because, or I don't know how this would be, but I think that some male talents are so sensitive and empathetic and compassionate. Lee Stone, for example, loved working with him. For some reason, I really liked Eric Everhard. Not sure why. When I think back, he was just because he doesn't have that nice of a face, but sexy. Anyways, I was surprised I was as receptive physically to Lexington Steele. That was interesting. I enjoyed that scene with him. Probably didn't come off that well, but he was fine. He was just like smooth. But there were some male talents that I really enjoyed working with, but one thing, you know, if this young girl Serenity was honest about being engaged, if I were her, I wouldn't be on a porn set, because when you're really in love and you're a female, I don't think you can really be a porn star, because your mind and your soul is going to constantly fight your physicality when it comes to doing scenes. So you would never, in my opinion, at least ever be able to do your best work. And if you can't do your best work, you really shouldn't do the job. Anyway, I didn't learn that until later in life, but I think that is a key to live by. So let's see, what else do I want to talk about? Well, let me think. Were there any other males that I really enjoyed working with that were outstanding? Maybe I'll talk about that another day. But getting back to love, I swear, I think when I went into porn, I think I was doomed from the start. Because I don't even know. I think that God just, I think that God has a sense of humor, and I must be one of his jesters that he just loves watching and laughing at, because when I look at my life, it's just ridiculous. But I mean, I was doomed from the start, because when I first went into porn, I had the misfortune of having to work with Dave Pounder, and he was trying to get me to do escorting, which would have been illegal unless he was suggesting the Bunny Ranch, and I sure as hell didn't ever hear him mentioned in his Hoff. So, you know, then at that point, I'm like, ugh, I can't deal with him anymore. I definitely don't want to deal with Bang Brothers anymore. Let me find an agent who maybe can get me out to LA. So that's when I hooked up with Girls Inc., Brian. Brian was an interesting guy with a good soul. He was devilish, but he did care about the talent. What I didn't like about him was that he was a bit shady. He needed to be more honest with himself so that he could be more honest with the girls. I would have appreciated him being a bit more honest with me. Definitely. But then, again, would I have listened? Probably not. And that's why I'm taking the time to make this video right now, because I'm, you know, I think it was kind of cool, really, that Pierre had enough faith to let me see the video to be able to give my assessment, because I know in the grand scheme of a lot of things, my opinion probably doesn't matter that much, but my opinion does matter to me. Because when I take the time to research and learn about something, I really feel good about it, and I put a lot of value in it. So being able to share my opinion, perspective, and knowledge in regards to some of these things, it really does mean a lot, quite a bit to me. But, you know, after I'd only shot a few scenes in LA, that was when I met someone that I just had a very strong connection with. It hurts me that people have made fun of me over the years for having expressed how I felt about that time. I don't like people like that. People have called me a stalker in regards to it. I might be overly expressive at times, but I'm not a stalker because I don't call people who don't want me to call them. I don't go by people's homes who don't want me to go by their home. I'm not that kind of person. I'm actually, pretty reserved in a lot of ways. I can be outgoing, but really, I'm not a physically aggressive person. Not at all. I'm becoming a little bit more assertive, but I'm not aggressive. But I wish that, well, I don't wish it. It would have been better if I hadn't come across that particular guy, because I really did go into the porn industry with a very business mindset. What really went wrong for me was when I realized that I was expected to be available privately and that I wasn't just going to make my money from being on camera. That is what really bothered me more than anything else. The racism that I encountered in the porn industry, that really hurt. And learning who exactly it was really stemming from, learning that it was stemming from a religious group that I always thought was my ally, realizing that a lot of the racism was coming from other females. Oh, that hurts so bad. So, it is what it is. It really is. It makes me sad sometimes thinking about how I did leave with such a bad taste in my mouth, and learning that so much of the structure of the industry is pure fraud and scam, learning that so much of it is truly organized crime. I think I've rambled enough for today. I just haven't done a video blog like this in a while, so I really do want to do it. But at the 22-minute mark, she went to go take a shower, and I know that she did it to collect herself. She took several showers during the scene. I think if I'm correct, I think she took at least 3. That was a little strange, but she needed some privacy to collect herself, and that's what was that's what made me very uncomfortable watching it. Watching her try to force herself to perform fellatio, that was like, ugh. Then I thought that Pierre was a bit unprofessional when he started coughing and hacking. I mean, I understand sometimes you gotta cough, but it made her nervous. I'm watching, it made me nervous. I'm like, let's see. Was there anything else major that I wanted to touch on? Let me see. Well, okay, at the 27 minute, okay, at the 27-minute, 40-second mark, that's when Serenity had noticeably shut down emotionally. And I think, from my perspective, left brain. Ricky was just trying to move the scene along by helping her physically guide into position, but I don't think that you can really do that, Ricky. Okay? The reason being is that you don't want anyone to have any reason, if you're not a sexually aggressive person, to accuse you of being so, especially being that you have sex for a living as a male. I happen to be fairly good friends with a veteran male porn star, one that Pierre Woodman probably knows pretty well. And one of his main struggles since leaving the porn industry is that everyone thinks that he's prone to being a sexual predator, okay? that's what a jury would think if they saw that scene. If it's like a bunch of religious women in the jury, for example, they would be like, oh my God, he is just manhandling that little girl. Because also keep in mind, she's really small. And you, being that I have been on a porn set before and I know the mechanics of it and, you know, what the guys do and everything, I know that you aren't doing anything wrong. At least not from my perspective. Now, my best friend Diana, she might completely disagree with me. But I think that from Serenity's perspective at that phase, considering some of those tweets that she posted alleging rape, I think that in her mind at that phase, everything was amplified tenfold. I think in her mind, she might have been fighting you off, maybe really, you know, doing something, yelling even though we just saw on video that she was meekly moving into position, kind of resistant, but still, for the most part, willingly, but yet complaining. You know, it's a fine line you walk, and that's why following the rules is so important. You know, I've learned a lot about rules and laws and having to obey the legal process from a civil court case that I'm currently defending myself in. You know, I don't hide anything. If you want to learn about me, whoever's watching this, you can go to my official blogs, or you could ask me on Twitter. Follow me though, so I can DM you if you're just so curious. But I think part of the reason that I decided to make this video also was to be truly fair in regards to my assessment of this situation, because the judge dealing with my case right now, my civil case against a very prominent porn industry attorney, he's being extraordinarily fair with me, and I'm so grateful. And he's been very taking the time to explain certain things to me. So, you know, like for example, in my civil case, I definitely could see how the judge may look at some actions that I took as being negligent. I could see how that would be. However, in that same way, when I look at this particular scene, I see how Pierre Woodman and Ricky Mancini were definitely negligent in regards to not adequately hearing the verbal cues that Serenity was giving. When she stopped and walked away, those were all red flags, and at that point, just shut that scene down, and you wouldn't have all this drama that you're contending with now. Because just the fact that you didn't use a condom on the set, and that I didn't see one offered, I mean, that would give somebody grounds to file a report. You know, I'm sure that I think that really there might have been some other things legally that weren't happening on that set that I don't even know about, that someone else would notice. So, you know, all the mudslinging and the slandering that you get some of these fanboy bloggers to do on your behalfs, porn producers and directors and agents and whoever you are who want to keep a lockdown on your girls who oftentimes you treat as slaves, you got to stop it, because the transparency is there. People know who is writing what. People are aware of exactly who's saying what. In the blogosphere, in the porn industry, the community itself, you know, in the legal sphere at this stage. So don't do that. Don't trash talk. Don't berate and degrade and be condescending via directly or indirectly, whether it be verbally or in written form, to these young girls who you wouldn't have any business without. I understand that times are tough in the porn industry, okay? I understand that a lot of you are barely getting by. I thought it was interesting, actually, that this Pierre Woodman was like, oh, why are you picking on me? Well, you fight the trolls and the pirates. And it's like, dude, the guy who wrote the article that was supposed to be defending you, it's like he's one of the biggest pirates out there. You know, you might want to take a look at MikeSouth.com every once in a while. He's not my favorite human being, but he does report quite a bit of what's going on when it comes to the truth of who people are, you know? And of course, you can always research on Porn News Today. I know people say all kinds of shit about me. I wish it was true, because if it was, my life would be so much more exciting and I would have so much more money. Just a little bit of money maybe, but more than I have now. But I have a tremendous amount of research and history on my websites, as does my BFF, Diana, on her sites, as does a girl named Kelly, who used to run Lucas Back, and really she needs to run it again because it does not need to be in the hands that it's in right now. No. I mean, it's so weird to me sometimes, because as I'm moving on in life and I'm trying to evolve creatively into other fields that I always wanted to get myself into, like music and, you know, visual arts, things like that. It's just kind of strange to me that I really do have so much knowledge about the adult entertainment industry, everything from its inner workings to its history, but really it's pointless knowledge to have, almost, because no one appreciates it. No one cares. With the exception of a very few in adult entertainment, nobody views it as what I viewed it as when I initially went in, which was an art form. It's an art. It is. It's also a physical act, which can really tear on you, but it's an art. And I wish that that there were less people in that industry, actually. I wish that there was a screening process that really showed who should be there and who shouldn't be there, who's mentally prepared to be there and who's not. Because I'll tell you, if there was a screening process when I went in, I never would have passed it. Because really, I shouldn't have been in porn at that phase of my life. I think I was meant to be, for whatever reason, but I should not have been. I was not mature enough, even at 29 years old. I've matured tremendously in my 30s. I had a lot of issues with men and with elements from my past that I did not need to bring into the porn sphere. I was far too trusting of people, which really resulted in a lot of my privacy being invaded later by people talking too much about me. You know, I definitely have been a blabbermouth about a lot of things about the porn industry, but I haven't been the only one who's a blabbermouth. And I'm tired of being the scapegoat for a lot of people who are afraid to project their anger and aggression on where it really needs to be. Okay. So really that's about it. Let me think. Is there anything else that I wanted to touch on? Okay, now at the 29-minute, 28-second mark, she specifically did say ow as an ouch. You know, she did say, like, you know, she wasn't so into it at that point. At the 29:35 minute mark, she specifically said it hurts. And I'm going to put that clip in here. Now, at the 31-minute and 4-second mark, I saw the male talent, Mancini, put his hands around her neck. That was definitely breaching boundaries that she'd already established that she wasn't comfortable crossing. And I feel like both Mancini and Pierre heard her. This little bullshit Shouldn't have happened with that little girl. No. At the 33, 39-minute mark, she was grimacing, not in a sexy way. She was totally flinching, pulling away. I mean, that was just gruesome to watch. That was total red flag. Now, at the 34-minute, 10-minute mark, or 10-second mark, she just got up and walked away at that point. Let's see, at the 34-minute, 43-second mark, that's when some of the anger started to come out of her. And I think that there was something about Pierre that was triggering a memory for her, because I kept watching her very closely, and it could have just been in my head, but I don't think it was. I think it was something that she saw within him that might have reminded her of someone that she had a bad experience with. And she was starting to lash out, and I think that if you observe that on a porn set, you need to stop that scene. Just walk away. All right, now at the 36-minute mark and 6 seconds, the male talent picked her up and kind of placed her in a position. I don't think that was a good idea, because I think that would have made her feel very out of control. And being that she's small, because I mean, this Mancini guy, he really wasn't that big of a guy from my perspective, but you know, I'm like 5'7", 140 pounds. That girl, again, she's like 5'1" and maybe 90 pounds soaking wet. So, you know, I think a little girl like that, you want her to always feel like she can maneuver herself, unless, you know, it's already been agreed upon and consented upon that, you know, something crazy and physically athletic is going to happen. 37-minute mark, 40 seconds, she was just looking miserable. I felt her reaction to the ejaculation was pretty immature, you know, and maybe that's something that some guys get off on, but, you know, the whole, ew, gross, you know, it's like, come on. I guess that's another thing I want to talk about when it comes to this Pierre Woodman. Gosh. The thing is that I know he wasn't always this way, so I want to be very careful how I talk about this. I don't even know if I really want to talk about it, but I am going to give my opinion. Okay, I've looked at Pierre's Twitter account. Here's my thoughts. I think he needs to change his Twitter avatar to an actual photograph of what he looks like today, like right now, if he's going to continue performing. That way the girls can look at him and decide, hey, do I want to work with this older man or not? Because he is professional for the most part. I think he's a bit pushy, a bit manipulative, but no more so than what a quote-unquote good guy pornographer would be. You know, I mean, they're all that way. But I just think that he needs to present himself honestly on his Twitter. I also think that he needs to own his current age, because I noticed that he had a picture up of when he was a lot younger with a very young Jenna Jameson. He called her the queen. That's so cute. But that tells me that once upon a time, he might have been a fanboy who did in time become a fairly successful pornographer, but you're not that young guy anymore. And you were a cute young guy. You looked like the guy that I thought I was in love with when I was in porn. You know? Cute little middle of the road, basic looking white guy. Non-threatening. But now you're older and you're bald and you're a little scary to a really young girl. Probably remind her of like her minister or like a teacher or a college professor, maybe a fast food joint boss. And I don't mean any of this to be insulting, I'm just keeping it real. Hell, I probably remind people of a fast food worker. I actually played one in porn once. I probably remind people of a annoying office lady with an attitude. But anyway, what I'm really saying here is that if you're going to continue to perform, Pierre, I think that maybe you should get in better shape than you are right now. You're not in bad shape, but you know, I guess really what I'm saying is, unless you're going to work with older women, I don't think that you should be with the young girls anymore. But that's just my opinion. You can hate me if you want. It's okay. It's just my opinion, and I can't not share it. So, let's see. Is there anything else I want to cover? Not really, because I got to edit this too. I guess really, Pierre, a part of the reason that I am saying what I'm saying to you is because your behavior, your physical actions with this young girl, I didn't feel like you really treated her like a woman. I felt like you treated her like a teenage girl. You know, you're kind of patting her head, like, oh, you know, no. Dude, you know who your fans are. I don't. It's not for me to judge, I guess. I am judging, of course, but I'm trying not to. Okay. Well, she did make it clear at the 48-minute mark that she does not like receiving oral sex. At one point, Pierre had her on the edge of the bed, and then he reaches kind of down. I don't know if it was under the bed or what, but he suddenly snaps on this leather glove, like, and I was and then, you know, at the very end, this girl, she starts saying, oh, no, please stop, it's burning, it's, you know, because, you know, he was doing what he was diddling her, and I don't know, you know, he even went, you know, I thought maybe she had a latex allergy. That's what I tweeted when it got to that part on my play-by-play on Twitter. He said that wasn't a latex glove, but it was some, you know, synthetic lube that he appeared to be using or something. Who knows what it was. She was having issues, I think also because of the aggressive sex earlier. Oh, and girls, if you're considering going to porn, let me give you a quick visual as far as personal life, non-porn sex versus porn sex. Here's personal life sex with a guy. It's going to be like that kind of, maybe, you know. Here's what the majority of the porn sex is going to be. You see? Big difference. No one tells you that. You don't find out until you don't realize that you could be sore in places that you didn't even know you had. So, I don't know. At the 50-minute mark, Pierre starts to lose his cool a little bit. At the end, he lost his cool a bit. You know, I felt like when she was getting ready to leave, I think that he did want to continue, but he should have just let her go. You know, he didn't need to actually get up and kind of pursue her around the apartment or the room, whatever that was. The set. Just, you know, just to protect yourself as a male pornographer, I would say that if a girl is getting ready to go and she's calling her ride, just back the fuck off. Back off. You don't want to have any excuse for the girl to say, he was keeping me here, if that's not what your intention is. Now, if that is your intention, you should get in trouble for it. But if that's not your intention, you know, maybe you just walk off the set, get in your car, drive away, do something, but completely exonerate yourself from that situation physically. I mean, when she was with the younger guy in the scene, even though the younger guy was more athletically intense, I felt that she fared a bit better emotionally than with the older guy. With the older guy, with Pierre, if I was a judge in a legal court of law, I would definitely have to say that I witnessed psychological and emotional rape. Physical, though, no. And Serenity, you really do need to probably put to memory the Serenity prayer. I'll insert it into this webcast because you need to find the serenity within yourself, to find the strength within yourself to look at a situation when you're not entirely okay with it, and even though you might really need or want that money, if it doesn't feel right, get up and go. You're not an idiot, and you don't need to sock away thousands of dollars, you know, in a very short period of time. You know, with camming, you can make a pretty good living for yourself if that's what you are comfortable doing. And, you know, you were saying in the video that you want to get into real estate and learn how to flip homes. I think that's a very good aspiration to have. But you don't want to commit spiritual suicide by trying to force yourself to do something that your heart just isn't in. Also, Serenity, you know, I looked at your timeline. You blocked me. I guess it's because I'm black. But just a tip. Your agents and the other girls, they do look at the things that you tweet when you're active in the industry. And girls can be very catty. And it's very evident that you have a bit of jealousy for some of your peers. And, you know, I know about jealousy. We all do. But as a professional, you don't want to show it. You know, sometimes you might not get credit in a magazine or in a scene or something, and you're not obligated to promote it, but you don't need to bash the girl who is getting the attention, because one day you might be that girl getting the attention, and maybe not even for porn, maybe for something else. You never know. But you just don't really know what other girls are going through. So you don't want to add on to their anxiety when you're active in the industry. Okay? Now, I might sound like a hypocrite considering that I'm very critical of, well, anyone and everyone. I'm being critical right now, but at the same time, I'm in a position to be. I wasn't always, but now I am. And maybe one day you will be too. So I guess that's about it. At the end, at the 54-minute mark, she said, "It hurts." That was a red flag. I mean, it was really the whole thing. I mean, really from the very beginning, when she said that she was engaged and that she wasn't used to masturbating and she doesn't really do anything, that really would have told me from the very beginning, hey, this scene is just not going to work out. But Pierre didn't care. I'm sweating in this room. Woo. Pierre didn't care. Pierre kept going. And I think that this has been a lesson for Pierre and a lesson for Serenity and a lesson for Ricky a lesson for a lot of people involved, that you have to be present in what you're doing, especially when you're working in the porn industry, because just as I said that Serenity at times in the scene didn't seem to be so present, there were times that I didn't think Ricky was so present. You know, as a male performer, that is a different kind of thing. You know, I'm sure you got to get in the zone, but he should have been listening to Serenity a bit more. I think that could be what got James Dean in trouble, because the industry does tend to churn out a certain kind of male performer nowadays. And it's not a good thing, but it's churning out a male performer who isn't conscientious, because I think a lot of times they're just trying so hard to give a good performance to get paid that they're not caring for themselves properly. And that's why, so there are some people out there, not me. I'm just doing this because I feel called to make this video, so I'm doing it. I'm a very religious person, actually. But I think that there have been quite a few people over the years who really want so much to make the industry a better place. My best friend Diana, for example, since they've made that union, I mean, I think someone should bring her on to the board of that thing, because she has a lot of really great ideas, and Diana really cares. She has her flaws, just as I do, but she really cares and really wants to make that industry a better place for young girls. I mean, I have a lot of ideas that I think could help the porn industry a lot, but do I have any desire to work within it? Again, no. Emotionally, I have been too hurt. I mean, I almost committed suicide due to the stalking that I've dealt with. That's not good. And you, in the porn industry, you have a political face that condoned the stalking and harassment and crimes against my family, blatant hate crimes against my father for being an open homosexual, and against my entire family for something that we have no control for and none of us would change for the world, being African American, being black. What I've had to endure through not just getting my truth out there about my perspective on the porn industry, but having to defend myself from falsifications as to my actions, having to do so even in a court of law, having almost zero support, having people support me but afraid to come out openly supporting me because they're afraid that they're going to get stalked and harassed too. I mean, I almost killed myself, and I want all of you watching this to hear that. I almost ended my own life because of individuals who are tolerated in porn, who are engaging in criminal activity that is not just hurting people in the industry, but people outside of the industry, and making the industry itself have a bad name and a real negative light cast over it. Until those people who have done what they've done to me are no longer accepted in that world, I could and would never lend one more idea to any of you. I would never work with any of you. I would never sit at a table with the majority of you until I see some change that truly is for the better, and that shows that these young people that are in that industry are not material objects, are not commodities, are not worthless. I want to see a porn industry where the performers are told on a daily basis that they are priceless and they receive residuals for the rest of their life, so that they know that their work was not just a one pop shot Wham bam, thank you ma'am, here's your chump change, now get the fuck out of my face. You see what I'm saying there? So anyway, if you sat through this whole video, I have lots of cuts and edits in it, I'm sure. That's what I'll end up doing, but thank you for listening. Follow Pierre Woodman on Twitter. Follow Serenity Haze on Twitter. I don't expect any of you to like me at all or want to listen to one damn word I have to say after this video, because I probably will only be making one more Porn News Today video, because again, I'm not posting anything else on pornnewstoday.com. Just sick of it. But I am glad this opportunity came up to kind of touch base with some of you, show you where I'm at, mentally at least. And I don't know. That's it.